Randy Robinson at Life Today TV, and I have one of the more interesting guests you're going to see here. Ray Comfort is with me. Ray, thanks for being here.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Good to see you. And Ray has a DVD presentation called 180, and it's getting a lot of notoriety. And he's been passing it out on campuses around the country and changing lives. And so we're going to talk about that. But before we get into that, Ray, you're probably, I don't know, you could be a church's best friend or worst enemy if you got into their offering bucket.
Well, I better qualify this rather quickly.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
I showed Randy a little bit of sleight of hand, and this is what I do to break the ice, especially if I'm on a plane with businessmen. I say, how much do you think this is? And they say, $2. And then what I do is I whip it into $5 like that, and it greatly impresses businessmen. Because it's an easy way to make money. But that's a good icebreaker.
It would be, and the thing is I'm sitting right next to you watching your hands, and I still don't know how you did that.
I can make chocolate cake disappear too.
Well, yeah.
And just try me later.
Okay. What's your point with that?
It's an icebreaker, really.
Just open up the conversation.
And also we have different gospel tracks, and one of the gospel tracks that's very popular is our $1 trillion bill. We're trying to keep up with the government.
Yeah,
we used to have millions, but now, and it's got the gospel on the back. So once you do a little sleight of hand trick with money, you can say, hey, here, trying to fix the deficit, here's $1 trillion for you.
Yeah.
And people laugh and they really appreciate it, and it's great when you get the change.
Now, you have always gravitated towards some of the more outrageous and eccentric, I dare say, things to get people's attention.
Yes.
Always to open the door to the gospel. Why is it that you like to use those sort of ways to get in?
Well, my father was very creative. And I'm walking in his steps. If you read Genesis chapter 1, you see that God was very creative, and we should be very creative as Christians. And this world is a generation that if they don't see a car chase in 30 seconds, they're bored to tears. And so you've got to get their attention. It's like no other generation we've had before us. They're hyper. So we have to keep up with them if we want to reach them, So this is one way to do it. People either love money or they love God. Jesus said that. So one way to get their attention is to give them $1 trillion bill.
There you go. Another way that you've been good at, you and Kirk Cameron with your Way of the Master series, is hitting the streets, talking to people, challenging their thoughts. And there's some great arguments and episodes with the Way of the Master series, but your new series, the 180, you're hitting the streets as well. Tell me a little bit about that. 180
is a video that we produced that I didn't mean to produce. I was writing a book for World Net Daily called Hitler, God, and the Bible, and I told them I'd give them a video called Hitler's Religion. And I went out in the streets with the camera and came back horrified because I had 14 people, mainly college students, who didn't know who Adolf Hitler was. And that blew me away. I thought, how could a generation be so ignorant? And the American education system let them down. It wasn't the fact that they were stupid. It's just there's only 5 states in the U.S. Have mandatory Holocaust education, and the rest of the states looks like they're not bothering. And while I was doing research for the book, I came across an incident where the Nazis shot a whole lot of Jews and buried some of them alive with bulldozers. I thought, I'm going to put people in a moral scenario and see if they would do that. So I got people on camera and said, at the point of a gun, would you bury people alive? And they'd say, no, I could never do that. I'd say, why is that? And they'd say, I value human life. I'd say, how do you feel about abortion? They said, it's a woman's choice. So then I asked them one question that made people who are adamantly pro-abortion become pro-life in a matter of seconds because of this one question. So we looked at this footage that we had and thought, this is not a movie about Hitler's religion, this is a pro-life movie. So we put it on the internet, and within 22 days it had over 1 million views. So we're delighted, and then we gave away 180,000 copies in 100 universities across the US in one day. And we're getting thousands of emails from people saying this is changing how I view the subject of abortion, which is wonderful.
Why do you think it's having such a huge impact? I mean, not everyone will agree that there's a moral equivalent between burying adults alive and terminating a life that they view as yet to be in existence.
Yeah, well, there's a huge controversy. People are outraged that I would compare American abortion to the Holocaust, especially Jews. One very prominent organization called the video perverted because of this. But there's a very real analogy. What Hitler did is he dehumanized the Jews. He said they're not human, and then he legalized their killing, and that's how he did it. He said they're not human. And that's exactly what the abortion industry has done, is dehumanized the baby, and it's no longer a baby in the womb, it's this fetus thing. And yet life begins at conception. At conception, DNA is present, the person's hair color, eye color, their height, their personality, that person is all there in their DNA. And when you cut off that person, you cut off that very life. And the other thing that I found very interesting when I was doing research for the book is I thought I'd uncover why Hitler so hated the Jews. And all I found was theories. It was almost like the theory of evolution with its different beliefs. It was, perhaps he had VD from a Jewish prostitute. Perhaps he was bitter because they rejected his paintings, or he was jealous because they did well during the Depression, the Jews. But I think I uncovered the reason for him being so motivated to actually kill 6 million people. Whenever he killed a Jewish family, he seized their assets. He got their house, he got their car, he got their money, he got their jewels, he got their paintings, he got the gold out of their teeth and the hair off their head. And Hitler made billions every time he killed Jewish families. He just built up these billions to a point where experts say that 1/3 of his war effort was financed by the blood of the Jews. And exactly the same applies with American abortion. If you want your 14-week baby killed in the womb, it'll cost you something like $675. 19 weeks, just 3 weeks later, it'll cost you $2,165. These are the going prices at your local abortion clinic. So it's very easy money in a matter of 15, 20 minutes, just a matter of ripping the head off, the arms, the legs off, assembling on the table, putting them in the trash bin. Do that 10, 15 times a day and you're making big money. In fact, the abortion industry is making billions and billions of dollars, so it's nothing about women's choice at all. It's all about lining their pockets. The love of money is still the root of all evil. So the analogy between what Hitler did and what American abortion is doing stands. It's a very close analogy.
We're told that abortion is rare. How rare is it?
So 53 million Americans murdered through abortion. You know, I did 3.5 years as a pastor, 3.5 years the time of tribulation, and I, during that time, was approached by someone who said, you know that girl Fran, that new convert, she's going to have an abortion. And I said, when? They said, today. So I got in my car, drove like a maniac to town, praying all the way that God would give me wisdom, ran up to the second floor of the hospital, into her room. She was sitting on the bed. She'd already had a pre-operation medication. I looked at her and I said, don't do this. And she looked at me and smiled. She said, it's okay, I'm not going to have an abortion. I just pray, God, if you don't want me to have an abortion, make Ray Comfort come up and see me. I didn't have to say a word. I just said, well, it's me, bye. 2 years later, I was at a church picnic. I saw this little girl sitting in the grass about 10 feet in front of Fran. As I bent down and looked into her eyes, it dawned on me what this issue of abortion is about. It's the taking of human lives. Genesis 9 verse 6 says, if you spill the blood of a man, your blood will be spilled. And that says an amazing thing. It says, for he's made in the image of God. You can't murder a dog or a horse or a cow. You can kill them, but you can't murder them. That word is reserved for a human being because he's made in the image of God. Dogs and cows and horses don't have a moral compass. They're not made with that sense of morality that God has placed within man. So when you take the life of a fetus, you're not just taking the life of a fetus, you're violating the 6th commandment and actually sinning against God. And so as Christians, we need to be tremendously concerned, not only for the baby that's being murdered, but for the person who has perpetrated this crime against God, because they will answer for it on Judgment Day. And we need to preach the gospel and see them brought to the foot of the cross and receive forgiveness of sins.
Why do you think a lot of Christians in this country have reservations about bringing up the subject, or they feel intimidated about challenging someone on this?
Well, I don't blame them. We have a whole generation that's been brainwashed into just saying or parroting it's a woman's choice. And it takes tremendous courage to stand outside an abortion clinic, because the secular media will demonize you as a doctor-killing, murderous, hate-filled, fundamentalist, narrow-minded, anti-woman bigot. That's what and all you're there is just don't kill your baby. That's all you're saying. And so they paint good as evil and evil is portrayed to be good. And so it takes tremendous courage. That's why I'm so excited about this 180 movie. Online, you can send this to a friend or foe or relatives and say, watch this and see the video do the work for you. No doubt many good Germans gave their lives in the Second World War by standing outside a concentration camp and saying, what's going on in here? And they were shot just because they asked questions. We don't need to pay such a price. We can let this video do the talking for us, and it really is doing the talking for us. We've sold 250,000 copies just at $1 each, so people can give them away to friends. And we've received thousands of emails from people whose attitude has changed completely because of what they've heard. all that's happening on the video is this. People are receiving information they haven't had before. I think I could change your mind about something you're sure of. Could you point to the direction of up? Where do you think up is? Can you just show me?
Relative to here, it would be that way.
Yeah, so you got it there. So you're a thinker. Most people say up, but I'm from New Zealand, and when they point that direction, I say, no, New Zealand says that is down, because we're on this ball called the earth, so it's relative to where you are on this earth. So there's no such thing as up or down in truth. So this information gives us the ability to change our minds about something we were absolutely sure of. This is up. And people can say it's a woman's choice, but you give them information they've not heard before, and it can give the ability to them to do a complete 180. And that's what happens on this video. Not only with people that we're watching, but people who are watching the video change their minds about abortion. We've had many, many letters. One was from a student who said, I used the arguments from 180 and saw my whole class, including the teacher, change to pro-life to a point where they want abortion made illegal. And so these are principles that anyone can put into practice. Kay Arthur, myself, and Randy Alcorn put out a 64-page little booklet as part of the 180 course so that churches and individuals can do what I did. It's not hard. I'm not super intelligent. I'm not super spiritual. These are just biblical principles where you learn to address not the intellect, but the conscience of the person you're speaking to. Because every one of us has the inherent knowledge, you shall not kill. And it's in there, the voice of a seared conscience. And what you do is just cut through that seared conscience and let the conscience do its duty. And once you learn how to do that, then all you need is the help of the Holy Spirit, and you can see lives change, not only in reference to the subject of abortion, but in reference to the subject of eternity.
2 more questions for you. First of all, people can go watch this at 180movie.com, is that correct?
180 Movie, completely free, and it's like a roller coaster ride of emotions. Once you get on a roller coaster, you start screaming and say, how can I get off? But you can't. And it's like that. It's very exciting to see a guy who's a Jew-hating, black-hating, America-hating, Hitler-loving, neo-Nazi atheist with a 14-inch mohawk. I mean, that's what stuff you see on there. And it
Well,
just...
you are from Southern California.
Dude, like totally, yeah. So yeah, 180movie.com.
How can people help get the word out, help you? Buy more DVDs and give them away?
They can do that.
To the ministry?
They can get DVDs from heartchanger.com, or they can just realize that they've got the world at their fingertips with that keyboard. They can move a mountain with their mouse. Just get 180movie.com and send it to everyone you know and say, this is an award-winning video, 1 million views in 22 days. You've got to watch it and then pass it on. And that's how to make it go viral. Have you seen a video called Charlie Bit My Finger?
Yes, I can
See,
quote it
you've
for
just
you.
confessed it. You can quote it, you see.
Oh, sure.
Last time I checked, 380 million views.
Goodness.
And I think our video, which is saving lives of children, is more important than Charlie Bit My Finger. And so it's in the hands of Christians. If we really believe what we say we believe, that there's a hell and there's a judgment day and there's a God and there's a cross where people can receive forgiveness and sin and find everlasting life, then we need to realize this is something that's in our hands that's precious and can change people's minds, not only about abortion, but about God.
Awesome. Thanks for taking a few minutes, and thank you for caring enough to dedicate your life to changing lives.
Well, thank you very much.